Good early morning to everyone, and to all of my subscribers and viewers. I would like to thank you for viewing and subscribing to my channel. I really do appreciate all of the love and support that I've been getting since I started this almost a year ago. Um, it's been going well. I've been getting a lot of positive feedback and uh, just a lot of people telling me that they like it. It's it has been something positive that they have been growing from my videos in their life. So I really do thank everyone for their love and support. Thank you so much. The name of this video, I'm gonna call it "Our Kids Are Affected by the Decisions That We Make." Our kids are affected by the decisions that we make. Um, Before I get started and I start talking about this topic, one of the things that I would like to do is I would like to definitely send out some condolences to some very important people in my life. Um, First, to the Davis family, um, my older sister's family, on her father's side. This is her biological father. I don't know if a lot of people know, but my dad actually raised my two older siblings, and you couldn't really tell because nobody really never really talked about it as much. It almost looked as if they were his kids because he didn't treat them any different. So the oldest two, they have their biological fathers that are still living, and my oldest sister, she just lost her grandmother. So the awkward thing about that situation is they embraced and showed us love too. It was almost like that was our grandmother. Her aunts and uncles were like aunts and uncles to us. Her cousins are like cousins to us. So, um, definitely close to home. So, I would definitely like to send out my condolences to the Davis family. She was buried and laid to rest yesterday. So, we do send our condolences out to them. Um, well, actually Saturday because it would be Monday now, right? Um, I would like to send my condolences out to the Adams family on the passing of a young man in their family who was gunned down. I guess it now would be almost a couple weeks ago. Um, they are too like family to us. Um, the young lady, Tamika, whose son it happened to. Tamika's like my cousin. Her dad and my dad are best friends. Were best friends, and his kids are my god brothers and sisters. So um, definitely my condolences I send out to that family. The young man, you know, was definitely a cousin to me, because blood wouldn't make us any different from one another. So um, I definitely will continue to keep praying for that family, as the funeral will take place later on today. Um, then I would like to send out my condolences to the Hudson and Green family on the passing of Daryl Jr. DJ is what we called him. DJ's father and my father were god brothers. So he's definitely like a cousin to me. Well, he is my cousin. Also, his sister and my sisters. Well, his sisters and my sisters are best friends. So, and then his aunts are best friends to my mom. So, I mean, it goes on and on. That's just like both sides kind of intertwined. His aunt grew up with my father, from little kids, so it's kind of crazy how that connection is. But definitely to the Green and Hudson family, we do send our prayers and thoughts on the passing of DJ. And then there's my family. As you can see, there's been a lot of death around me. Um, Please continue to keep my family in prayer on the passing of my second cousin, who is Lenny Gibson. She was my mom's first cousin. So uh, our families are like this, you know. It's crazy because they're second cousins to me, and we are closer to them than I am with some of my first cousins. So, um, words can't express how I'm feeling about that whole situation. When I got the phone call, I immediately broke down and into tears and everything. So I'm definitely taking that to heart. She was a lively person. Just her spirits were very high when you were around her. She always wanted to embrace and love, and that's one of the things that I'm definitely going to miss about her. So continue to keep my family in prayer, um, and everything. And also, I would like for, and I just have to say it, for you guys to keep a young man's family in prayer. There was a baby that was taken from us this past weekend, and his family. I am friends and with his father. This young man was only 1.5 years old, and I probably had a chance to wave at him maybe once in his life, very briefly. But that baby passed away suddenly, and what we want to do is we want to remember even him. And I don't want to get his name wrong. I remember his dad telling me what his name was a little earlier last night, but his family is from the Wilmington, Delaware area, and there will be some funeral arrangements made for that young lad later on this week. So keep that family in your prayers. You know, it's just been a lot of death around me, so definitely let's get to this. Man, I came up with this topic because after seeing a lot of death around me and who it's been happening to is the big shocker. Um, People my mom and dad's age, I guess they would be called the baby boomers, and then we're the millennials. So um, there's been a lot of things that has been affecting the millennials and the Z's. The next generation, I guess, will be called the Z's. So I've been noticing that God has been taking the millennials and the Z's away from here. And when we look at death, we always look at death in as a bad thing, um, as a thing of mourning more so than celebration. Um, we don't think to actually celebrate the life. We always look at the death as being a total loss, whether the person is older or younger. But what I've been actually noticing is death has been coming to knock on a lot of young people's doors lately, and it has been very, very serious, especially in the city of Chester, where there's a lot of gun violence right now and things going on. You know, I've seen a lot of millennials and Z's go within the past 6 or 7 months than actually the baby boomers, which the millennials would be the next generation to take over. Okay, and then we would build the Z's up to take over after us. We are not even in our prime yet, and there's a lot of our lives that are being affected. I'm seeing a lot of sicknesses. I've gotten a lot of heart attacks and things like that over the last past week, and I'm just like in shock, or chest pains, things like that. And I'm saying it's kind of odd but common that it's happening to people my age or younger than me. And it is crazy. But is it? You know, I like to take it back to when I was young and what I was affected by because of my parents' decisions and the things that they decided to do prior to me either coming into this world or when I was born. Okay? First off, let me be the first to say that my parents were not married legally until my first year of college. Okay? They were common law married. I guess my dad felt like, okay, maybe he was too young at the time. I know he did lie his age to my mom. So maybe he was too young to say, okay, this is what I really want. But one thing I noticed is he stepped up at an early age. He was a father to even kids that weren't biologically his. And then when we came, me and my twin brother, when we came into the world, he immediately stepped it up even more and said, okay, I'm going to always be here in my kid's life. Um, for whatever reason, he wanted to make sure that we did not grow up in a household without mom and dad. Um, and I always say they don't make couples the way that they did back in the day. Um, Even though he was young, he made that decision and he lived with it for the rest of his life. There was a lot of things that growing up I didn't understand, but they would always, and when I say they, he and my mom would always explain things to us, even if we didn't understand, they would tell us anyway. So a lot of things were not hidden from us. It was brought out to the table. We talked about it as a family, and what we didn't understand, we always asked questions, and they would tell us to the best of their ability. Okay, a lot of that is not happening nowadays, where the young ones are going out into the streets and they may have asked their parents to show them, but they're sheltered. The things that they're getting now is more so from social media, things that they're seeing on the internet, things that they're identifying in the music, and they want to be someone like that. It's just so much of their own opinion versus the parents sitting with them and actually spending that time to tell them, to nurture them, to get them through those rough times that even they had in their life. Because it's a repeat cycle. If you really look at it, the cycle may repeat itself, but it may not be exactly the same thing. They're growing up just like we had to grow up, but they may not be growing up the same exact way. And then they're exposed to so much more, you know? So one of the things that I want to point out is that probably affected us earlier on, because of the way that my mom and dad made decisions, to have us out of wedlock and things like that. There were a lot of sicknesses with me and my siblings, especially me and my twin brother. We had a lot of sicknesses and ailments as young kids, and things that happened to us prior to us coming into our adult years because of the decisions that my mom and dad made prior to us coming. Well, we don't look at it as when a child is made out of wedlock, and I'm being straight up and honest about that. Bottom line is a sin as it is. It just is. It's a sin. That child is what we would call a bastard. And there's no getting around that. That child is a bastard until those parents make it right. Whether they make it right together or right apart, that child is still a bastard. You know what I mean? So to make that situation right, the parents have to live right, which means get married. I am so glad that my mom and dad always instilled inside of us that shacking up was not an option because they did it. But it still harmed things for us in our future until they made that all right with the shacking. Okay, and they did it on their own. It wasn't more so for us, it was for their self. I think after a while my dad said to herself, hey, look, I gotta make this right. I've been living with this woman 10 years. The kids are grown now. um, it's time for me to definitely take it to another level and marry this woman. And I thank God for that. We didn't understand it at the time or why they did it, because to us it seemed like they were okay being where they were. We didn't need our parents to actually say, okay, legally we need to be married. In our minds, it just didn't make sense, but I understood why after they did it. And it made sense from a biblical standpoint of view. Let's take Christianity out of it, and let's take spirituality out of it. Bottom line is, we were cursed. Okay, the Gibson kids slash Leak kids, whatever you want to call us, we were cursed. Which brings me to my next point. Like I said, because we were cursed, there were things happening to us earlier on. And what I noticed is we were affected by so much. Had my father not been in my life, I wouldn't be able to tell you where I would have been. I could have been locked up. I probably would have been dead. Anything, you know. Not only that, my mom always took time out to understand us, both of them. They knew their kids. And what I'm seeing a lot of times is parents are just having kids, but they don't know their kids. They can't identify their self with a relationship between them and their sons or daughters or kids, period. They are not able to actually sit down with them and actually say what's bothering you, because they're not going to open up to them. It really bothers me that sometimes a lot of kids, because I'm so good with youth, they will spill their guts to me before they spill their guts to their um, mom and dad. And I'm seeing it a whole lot. And what's happening is, if they can't do it with mom and dad, the next best thing is to go out in the street and find it in someone else. And they may find it in a different love. It could be loving sex with someone, it could be molestation, it could be rape, it could be drugs, it could be either they're taking drugs or they're selling it. Anything could block whatever that child is needing from the mom and dad, and they're getting it elsewhere. Then that's when we lose. That's when we don't have that control that we really need for them. Okay, and what happens is, once their attention is taken elsewhere and someone else or something else gets it, it's going to be hard to gain that child's attention again. And I'm seeing this happen a whole lot in the city of Chester. It made me think just the other day, okay, we're born with a lot of things already placed in our body, like cancer cells. A lot of cancer cells are not, you're not able to fight them off, because the reason why a lot of kids get the cancer versus adults is because they can't fight the cancer cells off. They're too young. You understand what I'm saying? That, you have to have that brief period where you're young going into your adult years, because they develop again in your older years. Okay, somewhere down the line. But as you're younger, some of the kids, they are not able to fight it off. So I think about people like my nieces and nephews who are under the age of 10, that are still having to fight those cancer cells off until they're a little bit older. And then I see other kids that are their age, and they have this cancer or other diseases, and my nieces and nephews don't have it. But then I'm saying, why aren't they affected by it? And I'm looking at it like, oh, we all tried to do the right thing by our kids. Whether it was we tried to be with the mother or the father, um, we married them, um, we still try to be in their life and things like that. So I believe that God protects uh, His own first. So if we constantly continue to keep them in prayer and uh, keep that covenant over their life, then they won't be affected. That's what I believe. Okay. One thing I noticed is my mom and dad, they did not go to church as much, but they sent us. That cover was already over our life. My mom and dad would always pray over us. They would pray with us before school, after school. Sicknesses came, they would always pray with us. They instilled so much in us from that perspective that when the time came for us to make the decision on our own, myself and my twin brother, we decided that we were going to stay in church. Now, for my sisters, they were like, hey, look, we done had enough of it. That's enough. But because they gave us that foundation, it was already there for us. So it was only natural that it was going to be passed down to the next generation from our side, our end, which was our kids. Okay. Another example I can give you, and I'm so glad that I'm using my own, myself and my second wife. We were not married when we had our little girl. Her oldest sister was already here, previous relationship or whatever. But we weren't married. I was coming out of a marriage, and she had just been divorced prior to us getting married and everything. So the only thing I could think is my little girl's life was not protected. It just wasn't. I don't care how much I did or whatever I said. I remember one point in time my uncle said, you got everything. As a man, you have everything that you need out of this situation. She even gave you a child. So when are you going to make it right? That was his words to me. And that was one thing that always stuck with me because I knew what he was saying. As men, sometimes we stagnate and we get into that pace of, okay, I already have it, so I don't need to marry her, type of thing. But I got scorned because that was one of the things that I kept saying was, this woman buried my child. She buried my child for me. When you see what a woman has to go through to get that child here and give that child life, no way they should just be a baby mama. No way. She should always have the opportunity to be your wife, even if you don't make it to that. It's not to say that that's the only thing that or the only reason why he's marrying you, but allow him to give you that option to at least get a ring. You deserve that as a woman. Not only that, your child will forever be a bastard. I thank God that even now, my child is not a bastard anymore. She's not. That's something that I'm going to have to explain to her. At one point in time, you were a bastard, but you're not. Daddy did the right thing. Mommy did the right thing by saying, okay, we're going to take you out of that bondage. Even your sister, even my stepdaughter, for that matter, she wasn't a bastard anymore. Just because they seen us do it the right way. Now what we did with that after the fact will determine those girls' future. What you do after. See, people get caught up in the hype, but you got to remember the family part of it is raising those kids the right way. They can't just see you get married and not live it. Or are you living it the right way? That's all a part of how they'll be affected after everything. Then there are some things that you have to explain. So, what are you saying, Kenton? What I'm saying is, if my mom and dad would have never made the decision, for one, I don't know where I would be if I didn't have both of them in my life. Okay. Um, am I saying that they had to be together in order for me to become the person that I am? No. The only thing they had to recognize is that we both love Kenton enough to make the right decisions together. That's it. They did not allow us to see too many of their mishaps and falls that they had going on. We seen a few, quite a few, but we didn't see all of them. There's things that my mom expressed to me now that I've never known because she never told us prior to my father dying and leaving this world. So in life, sometimes what we have to do may not be what we want to do, and she did not want to express it to us at the time, but now she's comfortable with saying it. But that's the big part of why I am where I am today, why I'm not out there in the streets, why I'm not in jail, why I actually have that sense of direction when it comes down to street life, not knowing not to put myself in certain situations where I'm around somebody that's going to hurt me. That's a lot of what's going on. It's just not a lot of, I'm not going to say love, but a lot of taking that time out with your child, and it's not a balance. You get just mommy or just daddy, or mommy's keeping the child away from the father, or the father's keeping the child away from the mom because of what happened and what they are going through. Listen, if you're a mom and you're a dad, set your feelings aside and know that what is right is doing what's best for that child. That's it. Sometimes you might have to just call and say, hey, how's so and so doing? And, okay, all right, that's all I wanted to know. That's it. That's all you need to do. Sometimes you might have to just send that text message out and just do that, and that's it. You have to put your feelings aside because it's so important now. And now look what happens, the after effect that affects the whole family based off of what mom and dad actually did. And did you have that opportunity to tell that child what that child needed to know before they left this world, or before they got locked up, or before they got hooked on drugs, or before they got into any type of trouble, pregnant, raped? After those things happen, how much love and support are they getting from each parent together? So our decisions are affecting our kids. Let's keep it real. They are. And what I'm saying is, I don't see enough of the parents saying, not that it's my fault, but I should have done something a little bit better. So because I should have done something a little bit better, I'm going to take that lesson and I'm going to make it better from here on out. Because you still have a chance. Through that life that was lost, through the mishaps that child has had in their life, you still have a chance. If they're still here, you definitely still have a chance. If they're going, then you can make it up through the siblings. If you can't make it up through the siblings, make it up through your grandkids. There's so much more that you can do while your loved ones are still here. I'm seeing a lot of parents mourn for their kids, and a lot of regrets that they may have had because they did not get a chance to really do it the right way. Make it right. Don't keep that child. Don't allow that child to continue to be a bastard. That's the first sin in that child's life, and for real, that sin is on us as parents. So not only do we need to pray it off, but we need to do something about it. It can happen. You just have to make that decision, and then it has to be the right decision. You got to live with it. I did not want my child to continue to be a bastard. I wanted her to grow up in a household where she knew that mom and dad was going to do the right thing. And sometimes the right thing may not always be the best thing. You'll get your results, but you have to first take the steps and the initiative in the situation. That's all I'm saying, people. Don't let these kids suffer out here because of the decisions that we decided to make. We made the decision to bring them into this world, whether it was the right one, the wrong one. They're here now. Kids are beautiful. They are the biggest gift and the most precious gift that God has given us. Embrace it. I can't wait to see my little girl and to see her face light up. You know, the most rewarding thing for me was I did daddy-daughter breakfast with my girls. And sometimes it was every week or every other week. But most of the time it was when the oldest one would come home from Hershey. And we would go out for breakfast, and their mom would be at work or something, but that was something that we did together. I like to cook for them. That was one of my things. And I'm talking about I pampered my girls, take them their food in their room, wash their dishes, clean up after them. That's the type of father that I was to them. So they had that. I had a closeness with both of them and an understanding with the both of them that I literally did not have to discipline them that much. And when the discipline came into effect, they didn't get mad at me. Did they at their mom? Yeah, But for daddy had that connection with both of them. So, I can't wait to see them sometimes. Like, or even talk to them. I text them, call them, the best way I can to communicate. But that's just the type of parent that I want to be with those girls. I want them to have that much trust in me, and I want to have that much trust in them where they will come to me and tell me everything that they need to tell me about their life, who they have, who they're involved with. I want to see their friends, boyfriends. When the time comes, I'm in it all the way to be a father. And that's who we need to be. Don't allow our lifestyle to affect where and what our kids are becoming. Okay? I love you guys. I'm glad that I had a chance to do this video. Keep these families in prayer that I threw out. Keep them in prayer. Someone lost a mother, father. Someone lost an aunt, uncle. Someone lost a child. Period, point blank. Think about that. Throughout all of this, I've seen it. Someone lost a child. And I'm talking to you about being a parent. Keep that in mind. I love you guys. I love you. I'm definitely going to post again. Keep my family in prayer throughout the week. There are going to be a lot of funerals. So please keep those families in prayers and keep my family in prayer. Peace, love,